This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Let's go on talking about what's going on in prison. 13 months. That's how long Richard Allen spent in maximum security, solitary confinement before his trial, in case you're just joining us, in a unit called Westville Correctional Unit, designed for what prison officials call the worst of the worst. Allen had never been arrested before. He was a pretrial detainee, presumed innocent. You don't put people there in that sort of a state. That's for hardened, convicted criminals, not someone who's been accused of the crime and awaiting trial. But as you were learned in this case, nothing is as it should be. And according to the appeal, he was the first safekeeper anyone at IDOC could remember ever being placed in that unit. The results were predictable because the state of Indiana already knew what prolonged solitary does to people with serious mental illnesses. They'd been sued over it before. They settled. They had a 30-day policy for exactly this reason, but they allegedly kept Allen in a strip cell for over a year anyway, watching him deteriorate from a coherent 180-pound man into a 135-pound psychotic shell who smeared feces on himself, drank toilet water, and confessed to murders while asking if he was dead. The state then used those confessions to convict him. Bob Monta is with us, host of the podcast Defense Diaries, to help us break more of this down. The appeal references a federal court order and a settlement, IPAS versus IDOC, that found Indiana's practice of housing seriously mentally ill inmates in solitary constituted cruel and unusual punishment. That settlement established a 30-day limit. Allen was there for 13 months. Why do they does it even matter? I mean, they have this limit, but it's not followed. Walk me through what the hell's going on at this prison.
Well, I mean, I wish I could tell you. I don't think that I don't think that this is how other inmates are handled.
No.
You know, and what's
I'd love to know.
I'd love to know as well.
How do they decide who ends up in solitary? What do you know the criteria to put somebody in that?
Well, typically, if you're, I mean, here's the thing that you can never forget, Stacey. When we're talking about Richard Allen, we're talking about a pretrial detainee, a man who is innocent, who's being housed in a prison. Okay, like people, like if you're not clear about how this typically works, the way that it typically works is when you're arrested, and if you're not either afforded bond or you can't make your bond, you are housed in a county jail awaiting trial. Now that can take up to few years just sitting in jail. Jails and prisons are two different things.
They are.
Very, very different things. So Richard Allen, when he is initially arrested, they skulk into the courtroom and they say, hey, you know what? And this is, again, back when Judge Diener, the original judge, was on this case, who mysteriously decided to recuse himself, saying that the bloodlust was just too much for him to remain involved with this case. So he's like, I'm going to take a step back. That's when Gall gets appointed as a special judge on this case. Yeah. So it's important to know. But leading into that, and these are important facts that I want people to know because it goes directly on how this whole thing ended up the way that it did and why this safekeeping order is such an important thing. When Richard Allen is initially arrested, leading up to the days before he is transferred, I believe, from Cass County to Westville, okay, Richard had told Kathy, his wife, he's like, I need you to get us a lawyer. So Kathy had been hunting around, found a lawyer, paid the lawyer $5,000. And this is after Holman's like, I am going to arrest you. When Rick said, go ahead, fucking arrest me. Good luck proving it. You know, like that whole part of the interrogation. Holman's like, bet, I got you. That's exactly what I'm going to do. He does. So Kathy goes home. She finds a lawyer. They pay him $5,000. They don't know where Rick's at. So he's trying to make calls. So he's making calls to the sheriff department, Carroll County, of Cass County. He's talking to prosecutors in Carroll County. He's trying to figure out where Rick is, right? And hold on, I apologize. I'm fighting a cold and I have to cough.
No worries.
At least I have the courtesy to hit the cough button.
Yeah.
So ultimately, everybody's on notice at that point, Tony and Stacy, that Rick Allen has a fucking lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So notwithstanding that, they go into the court, they get in front of Diener, and they say, all right, without any articulation of or evidence that Rick Allen's life is in danger, there's been no actual threat. Okay, which is one of the things you either have to, in order to have somebody put under a safekeeping order, you either have to be a threat to others, like an actual threat to others. Like this guy's going to come in and fucking Hannibal Lecter everybody that he gets in contact with, or they have to be concerned that the other inmates are going to kill him, and it's got to be proven by credible threat. So what they do is they just come in and they say, well, this is a high profile case. He's accused of being a child murderer, and we know what happens to child murderers in prison. While that may be true, that is not an actual fucking threat. Yeah. So whether they use that, so they go in without giving any notice. So that takes place, that safekeeping order is entered, stamped by the judge. Here you go. Here you go. Without Richard Allen being present in court, without Richard Allen's attorney being present in court, without Richard Allen having notice that they were going to be in court, without Richard Allen's attorney being given notice that they're going to be into court. And on top of that, the problem for the state in this matter, and brilliant habeas lawyer that we're very close with, who's an Indiana lawyer who wins 50% of his habeas cases, which is unheard of. And that's post-conviction stuff. This is one of the biggest issues for him. And the problem for the state in this particular situation is the fact that Richard Allen had a choice in the matter. They should have hauled him in, because if the thing is like, hey, they're worried about my safety, so they're going to transfer me to a prison or a more secure location. Richard Allen had the option to say, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good. I'll try to stick it out in the jail. They didn't give him that option. That right of his was violated. So this thing is put into place. He's shipped off to Westville. And you and I, Tony, have probably talked about this concept 1,000 times in all the lives that we've done and all the recordings we've done together. The concept that when you have the evidence that you were just talking about, which is, where is it? You got an unspent round and you got mere presence at the fucking bridge, and that's it. Yeah. And you've got eyewitnesses, none of which identify Richard Allen. When you were the prosecutor on a case like that, and they pull the trigger on the arrest, and you're like, I think we can get it done. We're gonna need more. We're gonna need more, though. They're hoping, obviously, that after post-arrest, that when they do the search of Richard Allen's house and specifically his devices, you can, if you could get Nick McClellan and Jerry Holman in a fucking room and strap them to a lie detector and say, how much were you relying on finding shit in his devices that either linked him to the girls, that linked him to the Odin fucks, that showed some predilection for child porn or fucking murder porn, anything that would reflect that this is a guy that was building up as a 48-year-old man to go out on a bridge and decide after he left his mom's house to kill two little fucking girls that he didn't know were going to be there.
Yeah.
So
meanwhile, there's actual suspects. There's actual people that fit those descriptions.
Right.
And we're in communication with one of the girls as well.
Exactly.
So
but
it's all
those
to
folks,
say,
nothing to see here.
So it's all to say that when you're dealing with that and you're dealing with those realities, with those problems with the case, they needed confessions, T. That's what they needed. When they went and they searched and they found nothing on any of his device, nothing, no connection to the girls, no shit where you're like, oh my God, like, see, holy shit, this guy's a fucking twisted fuck. None of that shit is found on his devices. They realize
Yeah.
Got to get the confessions.
And none of this is done in a very slick way either by the people that need to get the confessions, by the investigators.
They're not slick people.
Not at all. But I mean, what just baffles me is like, okay, if you're gonna try and backdoor this thing, you're gonna think you don't want people to see, sloppy work. The whole fucking thing is slop. Like, it's just like, if you could, like, just, it's like a bomb going off. Everything is scorched. Everything's fucked up. And they're like, see, we got in. We did what we needed to do. Like, yeah, but that's not how you get into this room. You don't blow up the wall. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just, even the thought process of, okay, well, let's drive him nuts. We know he has this mental health code, and they got that 30-day limit, but we're going to keep him there for 13 months. And by the time he's eating his shit, this is going to be a really good confession. And then they take it and they're like, see, it's a really good confession. It's like, no, it's not. But they were betting the whole time that the system was going to say, yeah, it's a really good confession. When I think everybody on the outside would be looking at this going, well, no one's going to fucking buy this. This is not credible. But everybody bought it and said it's credible. Which, I don't know. It's like we're living in the bizarro land here with this case.
The question is not whether or not it's necessarily credible. The question is whether or not it's voluntary.
Yeah, that too. From the all of the above.
right. And it's like, again, when you're looking at the way that the appellate court is going to be forced to look at these issues, which if you're looking at it as a layperson, you're like, what in the fuck is going on here? And they're forced to look at it in such a way, in the light most favorable to the state. And they're going to look at these things where, because you can tell in IT, I know you went through the whole appeal, but the confessions are the thing that they feel the most strongly about in terms of the appellate attorneys, because that's where they spend a bulk of their time, right?
Yeah.
So this is a thing that, they really feel like is a potential winner here. And I hope that it is, because what happened to Richard Allen is fucking criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What happened to Richard Allen should terrify every single American in this country, because if that were your father or your brother or your mother or your sister, I don't give a fuck who it is. If that were your family and you were to find out that is what happened to a person that is presumed innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I cannot state that enough.
Yeah.
People that don't understand, people that think that once somebody is fucking arrested, that they are a guilty person, are wrong. That is not how it works in this country. We require the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that we have committed a crime that they are fucking accusing us of committing. We can't have it any other way. So in that situation, man, when you're sitting here thinking about just the way that he was treated, and you're looking at it from just the human perspective, it's nauseating.
It is. I mean,
and then when you look at it is. And when you look at it from the legal perspective, it scares me, because I just don't know if it's going to be a situation where these appellate court judges are going to say, like, well, the way that the judge looked at it is that he was treated as well or better than everybody else in that fucking prison. And did the defense do enough on the record to say, okay, those are convicted fucking felons. You're comparing a pretrial detainee who should be giving way more privileges than a convicted murderer or child horror. You're comparing a man who is factually, at this point in time, innocent. He is presumed to be factually innocent until it's proven otherwise. And he was being held 13 months like he's in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
It is mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. And the thing that I just want to impress about people, and he came in with major depressive disorder. He came in with this dependency personality thing. Like, I always forget what the fuck it's called. It's basically where, like, you have an absolute dependency on another person to give you your worth, because you feel like you have no self-worth. And Kathy Allen was that woman for 35 plus years to the man that she's been with since they were teenagers. Like
Yeah.
he had this, and this all predated the murders by decades. This isn't that thing where like, oh, well, he became depressed because he killed 2 little girls and was felt like guilty. No, this
not at
predates all of it.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.